potentially guilty of genocide in the Gaza Strip, a different story started making headlines. That was by design, Israel's. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNWRA, was established in 1949 to help Palestinian refugees. According to an Israeli intelligence dossier, which just happened to be made public in the wake of the ICJ ruling, 12 staff members at the agency took part in the October 7th attacks against Israelis. On the back of that news, multiple countries, including the US, UK, and Canada, all pulled their funding from the relief agency. Apart from the sheer cruelty of defunding a humanitarian organization at a time when Palestinians need it most, what is telling about this story is how many Western governments and news outlets still take stories based on Israeli intelligence at face value, even when, time and time again, that so-called intelligence proves to be nothing more than disinformation. On the day the International Court of Justice issued its seismic ruling that the war on Gaza amounts to a plausible case of genocide, Israeli spin doctors faced a challenge. How could they deflect the global media's attention away from that story? By sharing, on the same day the ICJ ruling came out, an intelligence dossier with their American allies that then becomes big news, alleging that 12 employees at the United Nations Relief and Works Agency took part in Hamas's attacks on October 7th.
That Israel has now shared its intelligence, claiming UN aid workers actually took part in the Hamas attack.
The agency, known by its clunky acronym, UNWRA, is vital in saving the lives of Palestinians. And what did the American government make of Israel's allegations? What it usually does.
We haven't had the ability to investigate them ourselves, but they are highly, highly credible.
Its officials took Israeli intelligence sources at their word, the same way they did with the Hamas beheaded baby story.
I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children.
And again with the trope that the hospitals in Gaza were Hamas command centers in disguise.
Hamas continues to use hospitals as locations for its command posts.
They take unproven, dubious Israeli allegations and legitimize them. So here we go again.
So it suggests that somebody wanted to change the subject. And we don't know who, we don't know exactly how it leaked, how it got to the media. But at a moment when the International Court of Justice had issued a devastating ruling against Israel, finding it plausibly committing genocide in Gaza.
So you have this Israeli dossier, it's now out, able for all of you to read.
Suddenly the media is focusing on the complicity of UNRWA staff in the October 7th attack.
We don't see that people are talking about the implementation of the ICJ decision. We don't see that news outlets are labeling Israel the genocidal state that it is, covering, monitoring, checking to see whether Israel's actually preventing genocide as it was ordered to do. And instead, most of the coverage is now about these accusations.
There was more fog to come, courtesy of the Wall Street Journal. 3 days after the UNRWA story broke, the New York-based paper put out a piece, again based on Israeli intelligence, saying that 1 in 10 UNRWA workers had quote-unquote links to Hamas. The report did not specify just what those links were. Carrie Keller-Lynn co-authored that story. It turns out she's an American who volunteered for the Israeli military and is seen here linked to one of the Army's spokespersons. After her piece was published, the list of countries pulling their money out of UNRWA grew.
To launder its talking points and propaganda.
Israel and its Western allies know propaganda when they see it. How to use it to pull funding from a lifeline for Palestinians starved of food and water. It's an axis of complicity, aided and abetted at times by the Fourth Estate.
Israel has been able to shift that conversation, but it's only able to do so because it has these editorial boards in line with it, complicit with it in terms of framing, and we have seen this throughout the war. Stories that have been fed into Western media that goes along with Israeli policy of legitimating its own actions in Gaza, deflecting from its own massacres, and creating the conditions for the perpetuating of the carrying war.
And this is where we have to step back and really question, is this the type of international order that we want? Maybe Israel should look inward and ask themselves, are we really following the letter of the law when we drop the equivalent of 2 Hiroshima bombs on the Gaza Strip within 1 month? When this is the largest number of children deaths in the 21st century? When we've seen more journalists killed by Israeli bombs in Gaza than we saw during the entire Second World War? Maybe they should start looking to those things rather than trying to smear, underline.